So if you find this sleep story helpful or interesting, then give it a thumbs up, leave any comments that you've got below, and if you aren't already, subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon so you can receive notifications of when future sleep stories go live. I have dozens and dozens of stories already on my channel that you can go and search. I also release new stories every single week, so I hope you enjoy this story. So as you close your eyes and begin to relax, I'm just going to tell this sleep meditation in the background. And I don't know whether you'll drift asleep faster with the sound of my words or with the spaces between my words. And as you comfortably drift asleep, you can just have a sense of walking through some old ruins. And as you walk through those old ruins, so you can be aware of the surroundings. And these ruins are in the middle of a forest, and so you can hear the sounds of the forest around you, the sounds of your footsteps as you walk among the ruins. You can notice the way nature has been reclaiming these ruins, growing over them, growing through them. And you can run your fingertips across the stone of the ruins, feeling the coolness of that stone. And you're searching in these ruins for a way into the ruins. And as you search, so you notice some steps down near a tree. And you follow those steps down and find those steps take you under the ruins. You shine a torch around under the ruins. The light reflecting and dancing off the sides of the walls, off dust in the air. And you walk deeper under these ruins, following a tunnel, noticing the more you walk away from the entrance, the more of an echo your footsteps have. Walking deeper and deeper under the ruins. And eventually you come out into a large chamber. Shine your torch around that chamber. You can hear some softly running water in the distance. You walk across that chamber to see that at the far side of the chamber is a stream that seems to pass right along the back wall, and then off to one side, and on one side it pours in like a waterfall down the wall, and on the other side it flows out through a tunnel, and you take off your shoes and socks, you roll up trouser legs, you step into the stream and you start walking in that cool and comfortable water. And it's just a very shallow stream, not much above your ankles, bubbling along, tickling around your feet as it flows. And you follow that stream out of the chamber, ducking down slightly as you walk through the hole in the side of the chamber. And then that opens out a little so that you can stand up and continue following that stream. And as you follow that stream, so you notice that the sound begins to take on a more dull sound, less echoey sound. And the walls seem to absorb the light more, rather than the light reflecting off the walls like they did in the chamber. And you follow this stream as it curves around, and you can have this feeling that it's gradually moving down. And after a while, you notice that this stream is coming out of an exit somewhere, and you follow it out of that exit to find yourself looking over a vast valley that looks like you could be standing on top of a waterfall, gazing over any old valley, except that you know you're underground. But all the stones above you in this valley area seem to take on a glow that's almost like sunlight illuminating the valley. And there seems to be trees and wildlife and a whole ecosystem down here in this underground valley, and you're unsure how long it's been separated from the rest of the world, and how it came to be like this. And you climb down the side of the waterfall, down into that valley. You continue following that stream as you head into the valley. And you try and work out why this feels so much like being outside on Earth, when you know you're actually underground. And off a little way as you follow the stream, you notice it splits in two, and one side looks really rough and chaotic, and the other side seems to remain calm and gently flowing. And you decide to follow the calm, gently flowing side. And as you do, and you walk around the edge of this valley, you find a cave, and you walk into that cave. And an unusual thing starts to happen. That as you're just inside the cave, you get this sense that the light is beginning to dim. And it's almost like somehow, here in this valley, is a day-night cycle. And outside the cave, it's as if nighttime is setting. Even though this is underground and there should be no day or night. And so you decide to create a fire. And go with the flow. You can continue exploring. When it's daytime down here again, and you know that it is about time when it would be night time if you were above ground. And so you light a campfire. You sit in the cave entrance. You can hear that campfire in front of you, and the way the campfire echoes behind you in the cave, as the sound passes into the cave, bounces around, and comes back at your ears from behind you. You can notice the way the light dances and reflects on the cave walls behind you, and again reflects out from behind you, giving a slight dancing glow around you. and you can hear nighttime sounds, sounds of animals that sound pretty similar to what you're used to in a nighttime. And you think this is a really strange location. You're unsure where it is, or how it could exist like this. And then while nighttime plods on, you notice in the distance what looks like light from moving torches. You wonder if it means there are other people here who found this place. It's way off in the distance. And as your campfire burns down to embers, so you settle down and fall asleep. And the next day you decide to trek in the direction of the lights and see if there was actually people down there. And you trek and trek and trek for hours and hours. And it feels like you're trekking under the warmth of the sun through this valley, till eventually you notice what looks like a man-made structure. And you realise there must be people here. And you peer into the windows, and you notice that there's movement of people. And you decide to knock on the door, find out who they are. You feel that they appear really friendly. It appears almost like they're scientists, from what you could observe from looking in the window. And they come to the door and seem surprised to see you. And they ask who you are, where you're from, what you're doing here, how you found here. And you ask them the same, without answering them. And they respond to you to let you know that they're from a different time, and that they've been exploring this time, and that they'd created this area as somewhere to do long-term studying. And they share that they're from the future, that they were creating a way of freezing time, and they're trying to create a way of connecting 2 points in time, that they were looking into space travel, trying to find a way of getting humans to the stars, and that to do so they somehow needed to stop humans aging. They somehow needed to be able to freeze time. And that it wasn't so much just about humans aging. It was about everything else about space travel aging. And that as they were experimenting, they accidentally created this rip that ended up transporting an entire chunk of future Earth into the past. And that the way that it works, and the way that space and time are constantly changing and moving, that slice of Earth that was transported landed in the past, but in a location slightly out of sync with the surface of Earth. And that this area landed thousands of years ago, and that for years people of the time, at the time it arrived, worshipped this area, almost treating those who were visiting through here as gods. And they worked hard to separate themselves from the god image and to try to help the locals forget about this place, and tried to help them to move on from their temples, so that the temples would just become overgrown, disused. The forests would all grow back, and then this area would be here, but with no connection to those outside of here. No one else would know. And now you've stumbled on this area. You've come here, you've found it. And you want to know if this has been here for thousands of years. What about them? And they explain that everything here is frozen in time, in just a small time loop. That it's almost like a 24-hour day-night cycle time loop that plays out over and over again. And that they're the scientists who have been here all that time, sticking in that same day, replaying over and over again, never getting older, and so far never finding a way back to where they came from. And you wonder what it must be like to have that experience, where you're just stuck in a valley, year after year after year, without aging, without time progressing. And they explain that normally you don't notice, that because it's about a 24-hour time period, it just ends up feeling like one day is moving on to the next day, it's moving on to the next day. Because psychologically, you almost tell yourself that. It's only as time goes on and you realise you're no older than you were days ago, weeks ago, months ago, years ago, that you start to realise that time hasn't moved anywhere. And they explain that they continue to run experiments. They continue to live out a life. They continue to make the most of the experience. And you wonder why they don't just leave this place the way that you found your way in and join civilization. And they explain that they don't know how much time has really passed and what year it is in reality outside of this area. That it's really hard over the years to know that you're keeping track of time accurately, monitoring every single day. And that to them, they've got all these memories of what things were like, all these memories of the reality they came from. And they wonder how they would fit in with different societies at different time periods, and that what their plan is just to wait and wait and wait. They don't age while they're here. And if they wait long enough, then reality outside of here will catch up with the reality at the time it was when they ended up here. And then, just at the time when they ended up here, they can leave here, find their way out, just at the point that they would be beaming themselves in this slice of time into this location. And then technically they will have disappeared from their time, appeared thousands of years in the past, and yet left this area and be back in their time, as if to everyone else they've never left, and that to them they will have gained thousands of years of additional knowledge, of studying and looking into this phenomena, and hopefully they can contribute that knowledge to whatever it is that went wrong, that led to them being trapped for thousands of years. And they just wanted to know what the current date and time is, so they can have an idea of how accurate they are, and make sure they're on track for leaving here at the right time. And so you let them know what the current date and time is. And you find it fascinating that there's this place where they don't age. And you ask whether this applies just to them, or does it apply to anyone coming in here? And so you want to know, while you're here, do you age? And they explain that's something they've been looking into. That occasionally animals find their way in, as animals will always do, and plants find their way in. And they too don't seem to age. And that it's interesting that they don't seem to spread. That if plants find their way in, everything gets trapped in that same 24-hour loop. Plants don't end up growing, pollinating, growing more. They just go through the same 24-hour loop. They notice that animals don't end up having offspring, that they just stick in their same 24-hour loop. And so everything within the animal resets every 24 hours to how it was at the point that it came in. So they never end up growing old. They never end up having offspring. Nothing here ends up progressing forward. That changes do happen. They have knowledge they've retained. Work they do. Changes they make here. If they build something, it stays built. But living matter never ends up progressing beyond that time loop. Things never rot and age beyond that time loop, but you can still manipulate things here. So it's not like it resets everything to exactly the state it was in, but it just doesn't let things go beyond that time loop. There's never a day 2 or a day 3. And you find this fascinating, and you can see some benefits of this. And you wonder whether they'll have ideas about how they could use this area over time. That this area will still be here after they leave it, when they're back to their own time. And then they would have a space on their doorstep, essentially, to use to freeze time when needed. And you can think of so many applications for that, especially to do with healing and well-being. And so after talking with these people, a part of you's compelled to want to stay here, to live in a timeless place where you won't grow old. But then at the same time, you can see what you can be missing by not growing old. Especially with everything around you growing old, with family and friends getting older and older, while you remain timeless and being unable to see them and communicate with them. And so you decide that, given your circumstances, you would rather be out in the real world than here in this timeless place. But you can understand their perspective of remaining in this timeless place, using it as an opportunity to learn, to study, so that when they get back to their normal time, they can pick up where they left off, which, although a long time will feel like it's passed for them, they'll be back with friends, with family, back in their normal time. And time for them will then carry on ticking on like normal. And you find your way back out of this place, back up that waterfall, walking along that stream, back into the ruins. You head through the ruins. You leave those ruins. You found what it was you were looking for. And it was more than you were looking for. You were looking for a chamber within the ruins. You were looking to try and make sense of some legends you'd heard, artifacts you'd seen, and you know what they were relating to now. And you decide that for now, it's best to just not draw more attention to this location. And before you head out of this forest, you set up camp, you have something to eat, and listening to those relaxing forest sounds in the background, you eat your food, settle down in the tent, and you drift and float comfortably asleep.